This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
The department has entrusted to you a duty connected with the greatest enterprise of the present age, and upon your enterprise and your zeal will depend whether your name is honorably identified with one of the facts of the future. No matter how many surveys have been made, or how accurate they may have been, the people of this country will never be satisfied until every point of the isthmus is surveyed by some responsible authority and by properly equipped parties, such as will be under your command, working on properly matured plans. So, on January 22, 1870, a clear, bright, abnormally mild Saturday, the Nipsic cast off at Brooklyn Navy Yard and commenced solemnly down the East River. The Guard, under Commander Edward P. Lull, followed 4 days later. In all, the expedition comprised nearly 100 regular officers and men, 2 Navy doctors, 5 civilians from the Coast Survey, surveyors and draftsmen, 2 civilian geologists, 3 telegraphers from the Signal Corps, and a photographer, Timothy H. O'Sullivan, who had been Matthew Brady's assistant during the war. Stowed below on the Guard was the finest array of modern instruments yet assembled for such an undertaking. Engineers' transits, spirit levels, gradienters, surveyors' compasses and chains, delicate pocket aneroid barometers, mercurial mountain barometers, current meters, all for prosecuting the work vigorously and scientifically. The Stackpole transits, made by the New York firm of Stackpole & Sons, had their telescope axis mounted in double-cone bearings, for example, which gave the instrument greater rigidity than older models, and the introduction of a simplified horizontal graduation reading allowed for faster readings and less chance of error. There were rubber blankets and breech-loading rifles for every man, whiskey, quinine, an extra 600 pairs of shoes, and 100 miles of telegraph wire. Stores in such shape as to be little liable to injury by exposure to rains were sufficient for 4 months. 7,000 pounds of bacon, 10,000 pounds of bread, 6,000 pounds of tomato soup, 30 gallons of beans, 2,500 pounds of coffee, 100 bottles of pepper, 600 pounds of canned butter. The destination was the Darien Wilderness on the Isthmus of Panama, more than 2,000 miles from Brooklyn, within 10 degrees of the equator, and, contrary to the mental picture most people had, east of the 80th meridian, that is, east of Florida. They would land at Caledonia Bay, about 150 miles east of the Panama Railroad. It was the same point from which Balboa had begun his crossing in 1513, and where at the end of the 17th century William Patterson, founder of the Bank of England, had established the disastrous Scottish colony of New Edinburgh, because Caledonia Bay, as he named it, was to be the future door of the seas. Harassed by the Spanish, decimated by disease, the little settlement had lasted scarcely more than a year. Every trace of it had long since vanished. Darien was known to be the narrowest point anywhere on the Central American Isthmus, by which was meant the entire land bridge from Lower Mexico to the continent of South America, and which included the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, Guatemala, Honduras, British Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. the last of which was still a province, indeed a most prized province, of Colombia.